One of the more complicated things that SketchUp, in combination with layout, that can do is construction drawing sets. And to do those, obviously SketchUp is most comfortable in its kind of quick and sketchy drawing use. And so one important concept for construction drawings is this notion of kind of making layers out of your SketchUp drawings. And the main reason is because SketchUp's kind of internal graphic styles that are available, they tend to be kind of fun and make the drawings look interesting, but they do need to be tweaked just a little bit to create kind of graphic standards for SketchUp drawings. And the book does describe in great detail how to set this up, but I'll just show you the basics here of a floor plan view. And I've set this up with three different views of the same floor plan. There's the view of just the walls, really, and anything else that's kind of architectural elements. A layer with just the furniture on, and then a layer with just kind of hatching patterns on. And the reason that I do this is mainly because this allows me a little bit greater control of things like line weights. It's so difficult to get line weights to look good, and SketchUp does not offer that kind of natively to control individual line weights. However, by using these different layers, and this is probably the more elaborate way to do it, but this allows you to tweak those elements. So let me just save my drawing, because you always have to save before moving to layout. And it will prompt you if you haven't. Then just click the Send to Layout button. And I'll just choose let's choose an Arch D landscape format here for our project. And what you'll see is, what you typically see when you start up with layout, which is whatever your last view was of your project. It calls that up. So let's take a look at this. First of all, when setting up something like a plan, there's two things that are very important. One is set the scale, right? Orthographic drawings, construction drawings are always set to some scale. So this is half-inch scale here. Then the other thing is make sure that you're using the last saved, not the last saved view, the saved scene, because this just allows you to keep track. If you happen to make any updates to that scene, the layout model will remember. And then what you'll want to do, and there are some basic controls here I'll show you under styles. Excuse me, only styles which were used in the SketchUp model are available. So I could easily switch between any of these, but the big thing is what is the line weight. SketchUp or layout uses a kind of multiplier to determine how dark the line weights are. So I can change that, and there's a range, of course, but and you'll have to experiment depending on the view that you are in and all that. But you can see how by changing this number to 4, I can get a much heavier line weight. If I go down to 1, maybe that's okay for a medium line weight in a detail, but or maybe I really want to crank it up to be super heavy, something like 5. That might be a little bit too much. But obviously in a big drawing like this, it's important to have different line weights. So okay, there we go. I've got my line weights layer. Let me select the viewport again. I'm going to do Command C or Control C and Command V or Control V to use the System Cut and Paste menu. And what layout does is it pastes a copy right on top of the original, and the reason it does that is for this very reason, is that I often will, or people will often change these different layers based on things that they want to do. So for example, let me add in the poche and the furniture or the flooring. Okay, so I'll make this second view the poche and furniture. Let me just slide this guy over. I guess my scenes were not exactly aligned in SketchUp. and I'm just using the nudge key. And you might say, well, why do I even need to change? Couldn't I just change the line weight here? Well, what I like to do, I basically like to make the line weight really light on this particular layer, so that it does not distract. Often there's detaily things like, I don't know, interior trim and things like that that I just don't want to see at a dark line weight. And then what I do is I right click on this layer and I send it to back. And now what you see is I can start to really compose this view and the line weights that I want. If the line weights on the wall layer are too much or too little, I can kind of tweak them to be exactly what I want. Absolutely, you could save a step and not have these two different layers. And I, in this particular model, was successful at painting the inside of the walls a poché color. Obviously, that would save a lot of time, but you can do it either way. This technique will work better as your projects get more complicated. So anyway, I'm going to use that same copy and paste technique. And for this last one, I'm going to make it the furniture layer. And you can see how nice and neatly that shows up. Of course, it does seem a little off on the walls, but I can use the nudge tool to move that. I can also, by the way, if you're getting any conflict where one layer is on top of another layer, blocking out maybe a piece of wall or something like that, you can absolutely crop some of these other layers. Before I do that, let me show you one last thing here, which is you can have these layers have a solidity to them. So if I turn on the background layer, see how it gets white. Now, definitely if you do that, you're going to want to crop this down. And it becomes a little bit complicated to crop it, because you don't want to overlap with the exterior walls. What you can do, because these are multiple layers and it can be a little challenging to select each one, you might have to move them around in order to get it the way you want. Anyway, and then as you can see, I can have all three of my layers, once again, recomposed back on top of each other. I think I actually like this more with the flooring in there, so I'm going to not use the background fill pattern. But again, if you haven't decided on your flooring or you want to be cagey when presenting or working with a client, you can absolutely make that whatever flooring color you want. So that's basically how you create a plan view.